Senator Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the witnesses as well. And while I've not followed the issue as closely as Senator Brown, I think I would simply say, Mr. Gensler, that there's knowledge in the field and appropriate hedging, but some of the representations that Senator Brown made seem to me more closer to manipulation than hedging, so appreciate the work he's doing. I want to come back, actually, Chairman White, to my favorite topic, which is the Jobs Act again and the crowdfunding issue. I think it is, I know Senator Merkley worked on this issue as well. I think there's enormous opportunity to use this new tool for equity crowdfunding that can really marry together in a remarkable way, particularly for markets, rural markets, smaller markets that don't have access to this early stage capital. This really could be transformative. I've traveled around Virginia and around the country, and there's a nascent industry waiting for the regulations to get out. And let me acknowledge on the front end, the nature of this will be, I don't think the SEC will get it perfect the first time out, and there will be people who will lose money. But I do think there will be the ability for the internet to kind of self-police a bit and call out bad actors in an appropriate way, and to work with you, I think is again different than the analogy that was sometimes made back to the old telephone boiler room operations where there was a lot of fraud. So I'm not sure you're going to give me the answer I'm looking for, but back to the Senator Toomey analogy, I'm hoping you're going to say this is front burner as well, since it has been more than a year plus, and we are seeing other nations around the world move into this space and take away any potential first mover advantage America has. How front burnerish, and within the parameters of what you've been able to say, what else can a lot of folks waiting for you to get these regulations out?
I appreciate that, Senator, and I think there still is, despite the length of time, a great deal of excitement, out there about this. Again, I sort of am describing multiple front burners to some degree, but it's certainly the crowdfunding rulemaking is certainly on one of those front burners. I mean, it's been a quite an undertaking to some degree, although the crowdfunding legislation does build in a number of investor protections. I mean, obviously the funding portals, there's some issues there. We're working very closely with FINRA to make sure that that doesn't delay us.
Right, because once you're done, there's still a FINRA process as well.
But we're trying to land that at the same time if we can, so that that doesn't build in other delays any more than it needs to. So it is among those front burner rulemakings, very much in
summer front burner, fall front burner.
We're almost out of summer, right? We're almost out of summer. I guess I've defined the front burner to be so far into the fall, but I don't want to really, again, what I've said before is, I really have separated out these work streams. I've prioritized as many as I possibly can, and I get them done as they're ready to get done. But doesn't take away from what I said, that it's certainly among those very front burners.
Well, I would acknowledge that this is a new space, but I would simply make the editorial comment that this is one where the perfect could be the enemy of the good, and I think there will be mistakes made. I think all of us who supported the Jobs Act recognize there were challenges in this space, but the potential upside in terms of connecting capital to entrepreneurs that otherwise are not going to exist. I was in Richmond yesterday where Kiva, which is the micro lending site I know you're familiar with, launched in Richmond, and the lending portal is a little better, less regulatory burdensome than the equity portal, although the Kiva fellows announced the fact that they spent about 7 or 8 years being told everything they were doing was virtually illegal. They've now done close to 900,000 loans and $500 million of lending with a rate of return or a north of 98%. So it's a pretty good system that is actually both abroad and now domestically provides a lot of value. So my hope will be again that we keep this front burner-ish. I'm going to run out of time here. I wanted to get your comment as well on the swap depository, the swap data repositories, you know, these SDRs, and how you're working with, whether you're going to have to kind of reduplicate what your colleague, Mr. Gensler, has already done. We need to get these registered as quickly as possible. This is going to be an important part of transparency in the swaps market.
I think just briefly on that, the SEC's actually put out what we call the implementation policy, and those rulemakings are, I think, in our second category. I think the first category is to make sure that we get the cross-border, you know, out and adopted. Obviously, mandatory clearing decisions have to be made, but I would not anticipate, you know, delay there once we are at that stage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.